today. I do still visit classrooms quite often. We do culture assessments and help students and teachers and principals and all sorts of different folks in the educational world. Every day we're talking with folks and providing input to just ways that they can strategize and work together to be the best that they can be. So I'll have to say, though, I was a little nervous when I was signing in, and I saw customer service, because that's not really what I titled my presentation today, but it's all rolled into customer service. It's the parent communication. I honed in on that. And then there's some slides at the end that I've pulled from a couple of different presentations that I've done. And it looks a little disconnected at the end because it does come from different presentations and different things, but it's all appropriate to what we're going to talk about today. So Wendy, if I could share my screen, let me see if I could get this up. Okay, can you all see? There we go. Is that good? All right, well, I'm going through here way too fast. All right. So basically, to begin with, as I said, this is going to be twofold: parent communication, and then being the best teacher that you can possibly be. And all of that is rolled into customer service, being able to provide high quality customer service to your customers. And you may say, who are my customers? So in the chat, if you would, just type in who you think your customers are every day. We'll take just a moment to do that. And Wendy, if you could monitor that and maybe echo some of those, that would be great. Okay, you're on mute. Oh,
of course I am. Students, families, parents, community partners, parents, students, other teachers, admin, lots of great responses.
Absolutely. So it sounds like my job is done today. But quite honestly, all of those folks are your customers, everybody that you come into contact with. And when I do this particular just customer service training in schools and districts, I always ask folks, if you could think of a business or some place that you visit frequently and you want to go back to that place because of the way you were treated, if you would just type in any type of business. It can be a name of a business, but someone that is top notch with their customer service and makes you want to go back there.
Lots of Disney, Chick-fil-A, Ulta.
Oh, okay. All right. So those are great responses. And every single time I do this, Chick-fil-A is at the top of the list, because when you leave there, when you go into your, they bring your things out to your table or to your vehicle. It's always my pleasure, and they say it with a smile. So I think that's really, really important when we think about what we do and how we do and what we say every day matters to every person that we come into contact with, whether that be in your emails, via text, face to face, whoever or whenever during the day you come into contact with them. So that being said, all of this is going to be rolled into two targets today. First, we're going to look at just communication strategies. And these are not earth-shattering, folks. They're probably things that you are already doing in your classroom every day. But we just want to sort of bring them to light and highlight a couple of things that, that could really help you strengthen that bond. And the second target we're going to look at is bringing your best self to work every day. How can you be the best teacher that you can be? And a lot of that happens before you ever enter the classroom every single morning. And I'm sure you guys know this and are aware of this already. If you think about communication and communicating with parents, as an educator, Do you find you have barriers to that? So if you could just type in a couple of things that you think serve as barriers or get in the way of parent communications. So I'm seeing the numbers go up at the bottom. That's a great thing.
Time is a big one. Parents have their own agenda of what maybe they want. Social media, ooh, unwilling parents, or
Mhm.
parents that maybe don't respond.
Mm-hmm. All of those are valid, every single one of them. And the one that we think of the most often is time. You know, if we could have that little magic bullet and put a few more minutes or hours in the day to get a few things done that need to get done and still have time for me time, um, that would be awesome, but we don't have that. So we need to be practical in the way that we have our communications, get those out, and try to find ways to solve those barriers. Some we know, folks, we live in the real world, and you know, if you're shooting at 100%, that's awesome, but don't beat yourself up if you are not being 100% successful with every single parent, but continue to try. That's the best message. So why is it important to build strong partnerships for student success? There's tons of research on strong partnerships with students and teachers and strong partnerships with parents. And all of that comes into how we communicate and when we communicate with parents. I'm not going to read all of those to you actually verbatim, but I do want you to think about open lines of communication. So just making sure that your parents understand and know that you are available. And, you know, I hear this a lot from teachers, and rightfully so. You know, once I get home, I really don't want to answer a ton of emails or texts that come in at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, etc. And that's valid as well. However, there are situations when, as an educator, you know, you can screen those. And if there's one, you know, that warrants attention for the next day, you know, just use your professional judgment on those. But do let parents know that you do have an open line of communication and establish ways to communicate. Um, this second one seems a little silly sometimes, but just be approachable. You know, make sure that you have that open stance. Our body language says so much when we are talking with the parent face to face. As I said a few moments ago, whether we're smiling or frowning on the phone can make a big difference in how we seem to be approachable. So in your actions and in your words, just be approachable to your parents. Clear expectations, and that goes back to maybe when you can accept or are accepting communication from parents, but also making sure in the beginning that you clearly communicate those any expectations for student behavior, their child's behavior, academic progress, um, understanding, making sure that they understand that there are times that they will need to support you at home with either reading activities, games, whatever it may be, but to expect to be communicated in a way that those are clear and upfront. Then the fourth one, regular updates. So I know this is hard, and we're going to get into this in a few moments because that gets into that time piece, not enough time. But thinking about keeping parents informed, whether it be informal notes home, text, emails, cards, whatever it may be, and we'll talk about a process to make that happen in just a bit. But I think back to the days when I was a parent of an early childhood, you know, kindergarten, first, second grade. And as the years go on, we tend to not be, I don't want to use the word helicopter parent, but I probably was. I wanted a lot of information. Some parents don't want as much information. So getting to know your parents in a way to know what they want, when they want it, and all and how they want it is very, very important. And the next one there is listen actively. So this is hard sometimes because we all have a million and one things rolling around in our head and trying to make sure that we're on to the next whatever we're doing in the class, or if it's after school and we're thinking about, okay, the ball game is at such and such time, I need to get dinner, I need to go let the dog out, I need to do all of these things. And then a parent comes up to you. It's very easy to listen but not hear. Does that make sense? So if we actively listen, that means that we're really, really paying attention and giving back in words what the parent is talking to you about. Validating their feelings, I think, is really important. And just be mindful. And mindful is probably, if I said that was my word of the year, that would probably be one that I would choose, because I think being mindful of everything we do when it comes to customer service and communicating with folks in not just in the education world, but our families as well. Being mindful is so very important, and just paying close attention to what we say and how we say it. So there are 5 more of these. The 6th one being transparent. Again, communicate those classroom policies, any criteria, upcoming events, put it out there so that there are no surprises. No one likes surprises in the education world, or at any other time as well. Offer resources and support. It's really important to provide parents with resources. And again, I think we heard over in the barriers, sometimes some parents may not want to see those resources. They may not want or have time. Oftentimes the understanding your parents and knowing their schedules and knowing what it is sort of a misconception. And so when we think about a parent that never turns anything in or never seems to be interested, maybe a parent that's working 3 jobs and just barely making ends meet. So understanding your customers, your parents, and making sure that we continue to provide even when we think they're not receptive to that. Does that make sense? Okay, so personalizing communication, and I'm going through these rather quickly because I want to get to the meat of what we're going to talk about. Personalized communication. So again, that sort of speaks to what I just said a moment ago, recognizing that every child and family is unique. So I know when you have a ton of students, especially if you're middle school and high school, and you have a lot of students and parents to get to know, it's a little easier when you're elementary. But try to understand and know circumstances, family circumstances. It could be an illness in the family. It could be, especially at the high school level, that their child is having to work a job after school to make ends meet. But know as much as you can about the family. And then it's always good to just lead in with a personal comment or something that connects you to that family or that child, that just lets them know that you care and care enough to find out what's happening. And it really helps to open those doors and gives everyone that sense of belonging that's needed. It's there. And the last couple, just being proactive, reaching out to parents. As I said, sometimes I know it seems like you're beating your head against a wall, the brick wall, trying to make things happen and to communicate, and we don't get those responses back or whatever it may be. But just continue to be proactive and continue to send those out and reach out to those parents. And then the big thing is celebrating achievements together. As educators, as teachers, we have to be our own cheerleaders, right? There's so much negative, and I think someone put social media as a barrier that's out there, and social media can be your friend or it can be your enemy. So we're going to talk a little bit more about social media in just a bit, but celebrating achievements with students, celebrating with parents, sending home those little handwritten notes mean the world. And as again, I know as a parent, I still have a ton of those in a little box put away that, meant so much to me when I received them. So I know from personal experience, and I know you guys know that as well when you receive notes of achievement. So before we move on to generational communication, are there any comments or anything you'd like to share at this point? Okay, so I don't see the chat going up, so I think we're good to move on. One thing that we have to keep in mind, folks, is when we think about who we're communicating with, generational communication, as you can see on here, if you go all the way down to the very bottom, the lost generation, 1883 to 1900. So those folks are our ancestors, basically. The greatest, or GI, general generation, those are your World War I folks that helped to shape the world as well. The silent generation, 1928 to 1945. This could be some of your grandparents at this point. Baby boomers, 46 to 64, Generation X, that's my generation, the millennials, the Zoomers, and then all the way up to Generation Alpha, which is our most recent. So think about your school right now. How many of these generations might you have in your school? Okay, so, definitely your Generation X and your baby boomers are probably going to be around. I know I was in a school not too long ago, and I don't know if you guys even know what this is. I had to be schooled on it, the green thumb workers. Have you heard that? It's a program. Okay, Jim knows what I'm talking about. So this lady was close to 90 years old. She showed up at the school every day and just did whatever was needed. If she was cleaning the windows or if she was greeting folks as they come in, but she needed that sense of belonging. And so she was within the school. And then you had all the way down to, your educators, your custodial staff, your cooks, your teachers, your instructional assistants, and your students. So up to 5 generations typically could be within a school at one time. So would you communicate with some of the older folks in the same way as you're communicating with the younger folks? Probably not. So, and then some, yes. So again, that know your customer, know your audience in order to be able to serve them in a way that is beneficial to everyone. And a lesson that I think is really important when you think about generational communication, when you think about this and know that every generation has something that they can contribute to that communication, to your school, whatever it may be. And, the older generation could definitely learn something from the newer generation. So oftentimes it's like that, the pecking order, as they say, when, I've been here 25, 30 years, what I say goes, and they never want to listen to the younger generational teachers when they have a lot to offer and, could actually help them to um, simplify things, I guess. So that being said, all of this is when you're talking with parents, think about the family structure. How has the family structure changed since? I know it's changed a lot since I was in school. Some of you are very, very young and may not have changed a whole lot since you were in school. But think about way back when that Generation X or the baby boomers were in school. The family unit typically was a mother, father, children, all under the same roof. We now have family units that look very different from that. So again, knowing your customers, kind of thinking about which generation they might fall in and how you would communicate with them is really important to keep in mind. Any comments about that? Okay, so let's move on to, okay, where should we start? All right, so these are a few things that we're going to dive into just in just a few moments. The first thing being just everything that I've talked about, and I'm not going to read all of that to you, but survey your parents. So think about at the beginning of school, whether you use conventional paper, pencil, and send it home. I would suggest doing a Google survey or a QR code and sending that home. And if you get some back that say, hey, my mom couldn't do this, then maybe send home that conventional paper pencil to get everyone's voice included. But basically, when you think about surveying student or your parents, they want to know, again, that their voice matters, that sense of belonging. So you're establishing all of this as you move through, and you're providing high quality customer service to those parents in doing so. And the next one, I can't wait to show you a few moments in a minute to what this one is. It probably doesn't make any sense as you're looking at it right now. Create space for verbalizing hopes and dreams. So I'll share that in just a few moments. Classroom newsletter. I'll bet every person on here at some point has done a classroom newsletter, right? So let's think about ways that we can jazz those up now and make them a little more technology friendly, I guess, because most folks do have phones and the technology to be able to open up a whole new world of the classroom newsletter. Video messages. We'll talk a little bit more about video messages in a few moments, but this is a very quick way, an easy way to get a message out to all parents. And I haven't included this on here, but having your students do a podcast home to your parents and out to the community. It's a wonderful way to get things moving. And the last one here is social media. What do I have up in the little bubble in social media? Caution. We have to be really, really careful. You heard me say a few moments ago, social media can be your friend and it can be your enemy. So we have to treat it in such a way that it's our friend, always our friend. Any comments? All right. So let's look at surveying. So what might you ask your parents in this communication? Number one, how would you like to receive communications? And my suggestion would be give them a few choices that you're willing to live with, because if you don't, you may have 10 different ways that they want to be communicated with, and that gets very time consuming. Excuse me, folks. If you think about how often they would like to receive communication. So again, parameters with that. And what would you like to know? So think for just a second, as a parent, if you're a parent, as a parent, what would be some things you would like to know throughout the year about your child?
How can I encourage more parents to reach out to me on a more often basis?
Okay, that would go back.
I find it difficult to reach out to all of my students' parents weekly because I have like 135 kiddos.
Wow. No,
And
you
I
can't
find
do
that very overwhelming to reach out. And I try to keep a positive connection going. But how do I encourage parents to reach out to me? Like I might have two of their kiddos out of their three kids total. So that seems more feasible for them to reach out.
Absolutely. I think going back to that open lines of communication up front and early, let the parents know that, that it's okay, because a lot of parents, and we hear this a lot when we do parent interviews, a lot of parents will say, I didn't realize that I could contact my child's teacher, or I feel like I'm just burdening my child's teacher. These are some comments that we've heard through our interviews. And I mean, just as you've expressed, nothing could be further from the truth. But
Right.
it's again that perception, and when we don't openly say things and take for granted that folks know this, I think that there's that misconception that we can do on the upfront end in letting parents know, hey, it's okay. And again, letting them know that could be something in the survey that you ask them.
I like the survey idea.
Yeah.
I do send out like a message, an individual message prior to school starting at the beginning of the year, like just as a hello, positive contact. This is who I am. If you ever have anything, please reach out. But I still feel like parents feel largely that it is the teacher's responsibility to always be the first one to reach out. So I just wondered if there are any tips to like, please reach out to us. Like,
Again, I think just being proactive up front, letting them know how important it is to keep that open line of communication. It's a two-way communication, I guess, is a really good way to put it. Because oftentimes when we
Mhm.
send things home, we never get a reply back, so
Right.
making sure that they understand that it's okay to do that.
Thank you.
That's a very good question. Any other comments or questions about surveying parents?
There were some great comments too in the chat about several teachers said, what would they like to know, upcoming events, how my child is doing, like for a concert, what do they wear, if my child, their grades, reporting about grades, like contact information, do they have friends, are they a good friend themselves, how to volunteer if I'm a parent, strengths, struggles, behaviors, achievements, when assignments are due. So really good information.
Those are excellent, excellent comments. And finding a way to include those in your survey, maybe as choices, or writing in an other, just so that you're more aware of the types of communication. Lots of folks, and when we get to social media, you'll see that, but lots of folks have, or I'm sure you guys have your teacher websites and social media pages and different things that you share things on. And that's a really good way to get to the masses, Christy, instead of, the one-on-one. If you can do like this video message in a few moments that we're going to share. So, as I said, middle school and high school teachers, when you have that number of students, it's just super hard to get it all in. But thank you for that question. So here is the creating space. So this is incredibly simple, but we were at a deeper learning conference in San Diego, and this was a very special school out there. It was an elementary school, and outside her classroom, and this was before school started, she had just this hopes and dreams. It's Post-it paper drawn on there, nothing, too technological about that. And she just provided something to write with and Post-it notes for parents to write down their hopes and dreams for their child for the year. And when we talked with the teacher, she said, I do this every year because so often parents don't share with their children what they would write on these pieces of paper. So notice, they don't have names on them. So the students really don't know whose parent wrote what. But if they leave these up and the students are reading these throughout the year, or especially in those first few weeks of school, they're guessing, I bet my mom wrote that, or I bet my dad wrote that. And it really just gives them that boost and that self-confidence to do all of these things. I love the one here that I have highlighted in the center. Be kind every day, be confident every day, learn something new every day. So very, very simple, but I'm sure as her child went out the door that morning, she didn't say, honey, be kind, be confident, learn something new today. But it's just those little gentle reminders. And it's so easy to do. And this could be inside your classroom or outside your classroom. The newsletter, as we said, we have several different newsletters. We have the CRISA newsletter. We have a KEDC newsletter that has a compilation of all that we do that's included in there. And one thing that I love, we use S'more, and I have on here, there's all sorts of templates that you can use, the MailChimp, Google templates, Pinterest has some. As I said, we use S'more. But back in 100 years ago, as I like to say, when I first started in the classroom, it was pretty much, you typed it in, it was pretty boring. But we can make newsletters very active. We can include links. We can have all sorts of, videos that we can embed in there. And I hear what you're saying. Time. This all takes a lot of time. So my biggest suggestion there would be the organization piece on that. And we're going to talk about setting a schedule in just a few moments for your communications. But thinking about beginning with the end in mind. So thinking about this newsletter and think, what all do I want to include in here? And what can I collect as, let's say it's 4 weeks in or 6 weeks in or the 9 weeks, however you choose to do them. Or if it's a weekly newsletter, what can I do that's easily I can pull from one piece that I've already done and place over into this newsletter and create those links and get that out electronically. Again, if you have parents that don't have the capability to read them electronic, those links are not going to be as exciting, but the gist of what you're doing is going to be included in that newsletter. Does that make sense? So again, just as Wendy said, exactly all the things that you guys put and more, what, class project descriptions, any upcoming field trips that they might be about to take, any cost associated with any of that, any special materials for special projects. And the one I like most is the teacher profile. Because how many of you have ever been in Walmart or the grocery store, and especially elementary folks, and that child comes up to you and says, "You're not at school." They think you live there all the time. So having that teacher profile sent out to parents and, to the students, obviously, to be able to see that, and even having this like behind your desk, it's a really great way to communicate to your students who are your customers every day. Who am I when I'm not a teacher? A picture of yourself and your family, your pet, maybe some hobbies and things that you enjoy doing, any details that you're comfortable sharing with the world, basically, can be put up there. And it really just helps to create that relationship with the student and with the parent if you're able to include that in your newsletter. Also, a really good tip here is talk with your technology director, or if you have the person in your school that takes care of all your platforms and different things that you use. Do a technology audit. It's what we like to say, and we do this sometimes when we work with districts. And what you might find is, they might have a site-wide subscription to something that you're already paying for personally that, you could use on the school-wide. So always check with those folks to see, what can we do to be more efficient in communicating with our parents. Okay, this video message. So this is something that I have to say during COVID, I found this lady, and I'd be interested to know if anyone has listened to her at all. She is very engaging. As you can see, she has a lot of subscribers. And this is one particular one that she had specifically on how to improve teacher-parent communication. And she's just, she's very vibrant. She's on YouTube, as you can see, and she just really shares, even during this particular segment, a little video that she actually did before school starts. And I was really, really taken by this back in COVID because she talked about communicating again with parents in that world. But what she did is just a little 5 to 7 minute video. She does one for the entire class. So it's not like, you have to do all these videos. And she would have her class roster. And in her class roster, she would say, I'm so excited to have, and she would say all of the students' names. And can't wait to see you in class. And by the way, I'm in room such and such, so really getting it out there for the students and the parents to get excited about school and getting back into the groove of school in the fall. Another thing that she did is if you have a week-long fall break or Christmas break, a couple weeks, whatever that may be, about halfway through, she would post this out on social media or send it via email or text, depending upon, again, how her parents wanted to be communicated with. But basically, she would just say, hey, this is Miss Such and Such, and my family and I have really enjoyed whatever the holiday or painting pumpkins if it was in the fall. Hope you and your child are really having a wonderful time together. 2 to 3 minutes, it's out there, and the response was just tremendous. So the video message, I guess we could call this, even if you did it on a regular basis, a vlog, a video blog, but it's easy and very time efficient to make this happen. So I'm going to speed up a little bit because I see my time is about to expire. So social media, I'm not going to harp on this, guys, but I really do want to say, notice again here in the middle that huge caution. So I know you know this already, but always remember that when you're posting things out there to ensure that if it's pictures of students that you have permission to do so, because there are students who can't be posted. Always adhere to any confidentiality protocols that's there. And then I think the biggest thing, not more important than what I just said, but really, really important, is never engage in negativity in social media comments. If you know for certain that someone really doesn't have a clue what they're talking about and all of these comments are infuriating you, please don't add to it, because as a teacher, as someone that works in that school, you are a representation of that school, whether you're in the school or at home. So in doing so, I've really seen it go badly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So always, if you need to comment, or if you know that person personally, you might contact them outside social media, but never add to that negativity as it's going through. And again, we can use social media to be our greatest cheerleader, to showcase all the wonderful things that's happening in our classroom, all the successes. So just proceed with caution with social media. So how in the world, I know you're asking yourself this question, how can I add one more thing to my to-do list every day? So if you can create a communication schedule, and this is really, really helpful in your weekly communications, your monthly communications, annually, however you choose to do this, but really just create a plan and stick to it, what you need to communicate and how often you need to communicate it. And if you use like Class Dojo, a lot of teachers use that. Loomly, we use that here at KEDC. There's Hootsuite, so many other apps that you can get out there that's free, actually, that you can either during your planning or take just a few moments to craft what you need it to say and schedule it to be sent out like on Sunday evening or Friday evening without you having to stay after school and work on that. Does that make sense? But just creating that communication schedule and trying to stick to it and thinking about how your parents wanted to be communicated with. include that in the schedule, just have their names. And, these folks would like text, these folks would, prefer email or whatever it may be. And that it's a small step, but it's a huge step in creating high quality customer service for your folks. Again, I'm not going to read all of these to you, but for teacher and student relationships and the communication, how we communicate with them, and teacher and parent, the bottom line basically is that when it's positive, you have greater student achievement. When you have positive parent and teacher communication, students perform better, their behavior is better, they're more engaged at school, all the good things, even the social emotional behaviors are elevated when you have positive relationships with your students and your parents. And how we communicate with them, honestly, is that's the key in our verbal and nonverbal communication. Any comments? I'm going to give you just a few moments to read over those. While you're reading, at the very bottom, I will have to say, one of my most favorite activities is I wish my teacher knew. And I know you guys know about this, but it's just at the beginning of the year or maybe mid-year, whenever it could be, just asking your students to finish that statement. And sometimes it is, it's very moving what you see and how you get to know your students in that way. Any comments here? So I could say that very quickly, anyone that knows about Professor John Hattie's research, positive teacher-student and positive teacher-parent relationships has an effect size of 0.52. A 0.4 with his research states that that is equal to a full year's growth. So just having this in place, the relationships with and in a positive manner with your teachers, student and teacher parents, can give you a huge leg up on all of these things that we want to happen with our students. So what are some resources? Well, you already know that KEDC is a great resource because of all the wonderful things you get with the grants and you get to do. But we do have an instructional support team that would be more than happy to come out and work with you in your school. We provide regional sessions, professional growth opportunities. We have rank change options. Some of you may be involved in those already. Our school visits and so many more things that you can do. But this is our web address, and I'm sure you already know that. But our service booklet is in a flip book form that's on there. So it's updated regularly. So I encourage you to go on there, and all of our contact information is included within that. So please jump on there and let us know when we can be of service. And one thing that a lot of educators doesn't realize is that Canva for educators offers a free version for teachers, and there are tons of templates on Canva. And Jamie and Wendy and all of you guys, we're Canva lovers. So it's really easy to use, easy to navigate, and can be a huge time saver as well. So any comments up to this point? Because we're about ready to transition, and I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. Okay. I do want to say, what I'm about to put on the screen next, I don't want to be offensive to anyone because, as I said, these are gentle reminders of things that we already know, but they play a huge role in how we communicate through not just our words, but our actions and the way we dress and so forth. So please don't be offended. But I do want to just jump in here very quickly with a couple of these and say that a part of your survey and a part of your responses was, how can I be the best teacher that I can be? So first and foremost, you need to know and grow your own strengths. knowing what your strengths are, discovering your best self, and you're thinking, my best self, what does that mean? So bringing your best self to work is someone that has, and I know we all live in the real world, but getting a good night's rest, eating healthy, exercising, all the things that we know we should do for ourselves to be our best self, that's a huge step in getting that in. And being your best self more often. So what in the world does that mean? So again, that word mindful, being mindful of being your best self and put your best forward and having a positive mindset is super important. And then making your best self even better. We're all a work in progress, whether you're a first year teacher or 30 plus years in the classroom, we're always a work in progress on our educational side and ourselves. And then bringing out the best in others. I think when we can bring out the best in others, that reciprocates back to us. So that's very, very important as we think about bringing our best self and being the best teacher that we can be. So someone had earlier, I thought it was really interesting, a Disney experience, and I'm thinking, wow, it's included in here. So think about the Disney experience when you go. What do you remember when you leave, right? You remember all the fun things, the magical moments of Mickey coming up and giving your child a kiss, the magical moments, going through all of the rides and just all the fun stuff. We simply forget the long lines and as parents how expensive it was to get in and all those it's super, super hot, you're sweating waiting in those lines, but we want to go back time and time again. So my charge to you is to think about how can you create that experience, that Disney experience, or the power of moments in your classroom to make students and parents remember all the good that's happening, because we know there's good every day, all day. One bad thing happens and what happens, it explodes, and that's all anybody remembers. So getting that communication out there to our customers, our parents, our students, and making those moments more impactful. Any comments on that? Do you see any Wendy coming in?
You're getting some, I love this. So that's great.
Good, good. So this is the one that I said, please don't be offended by this. But as I said, 34 years in education, I've been in a lot of classrooms and a lot of places, and I've actually had a lot of administrators ask, could you just go over appropriate dress? So I just pulled some things and get a lot of chuckles when we do this in person. So the first one there, just don't show up like it's Friday night. We all know this. I'm preaching to the choir. Don't show up like it's Saturday morning, way too casual. And then my favorite one is the one on the bottom. Just don't show up to work like you just rolled out of bed, And honestly, we've seen it all across the board. But for the most part, we know what's appropriate. We know how to dress, and basically all of this is just to say that we are role models for our students, and being the best teacher that you can be is being a good role model for that student. So in thinking about what they might have to go through at home and different things, school and your classroom needs to be a happy place, a fun place, the power of moments. And then you being the role model that they can say, hey, I want to be a teacher someday, or, hey, I want to be whatever that inspiration is. An attitude. I won't spend a lot of time on this, and I'm not going to read all of that to you, but we all know that every single morning we wake up and there's something that could cause us to be tilted to the negative side, right? So we have the power within us every single day to make a choice. Am I going to be positive or negative? And basically, the question would be, are you a glass half full or are you a glass half empty type of person? So my charge again to you would be, if you are a glass half empty type of person, be mindful of what makes you that way, and be mindful of your comments and think, how could I turn this around and make this glass half full instead of empty? Does that make sense? Again, I think it's really, really important to appreciate the good in yourself and others. We sometimes are our worst critics. I think educators, for sure, we beat ourselves up for things that are totally out of our control. But appreciate what you do every day. You do way more good than anything that you're beating yourself up about. Believe in yourself, believe in your students, and believe in your parents. And I know sometimes that's hard because of, as you all said earlier, the lack of communication and so many of those other things. But it matters. And are we moving on? There we are. This one's a hard one. Leave your personal and emotional baggage at the door when you come into work as professionals. And as I said, we all live in the real world, and it's really hard sometimes to do this, but don't make your students and coworkers suffer because you have problems. You know, always come in, try to have that positive attitude. And I always like to say, leave it, check it at the door. And when you leave that evening, you know, if you must, put it back on your shoulders, your backpack back on your shoulders, or that luggage that's there. But while you're working with those students, you know, we have a responsibility to try to leave that at the door if we can. And again, I won't go over all of this specifically, but if you notice, the big thing here, 7% of what we say is actually conveyed through words. The majority is our nonverbal cues, our facial expressions, our gestures. Do we have our arms crossed when we're talking to folks? Are we making eye contact? All of those things are so very important to remember. And to sum it up here and thinking about being the best that you can be every day, if you would just sort of read through what's on the screen, I won't read it to you, but asking yourselves these questions can really make a difference in if it's negative, how can I make it more positive? What can I do to have a more positive growth mindset? And then keep looking forward. You know, we always say hindsight's always 20/20. There's always things that we know now that we could have done differently, but look forward and don't get so caught up on the things that we can't change. So, Wendy, I have just about 3 minutes for questions. I'm sorry that went just a little longer than intended, but any feedback, opinions, comments, questions, I'm happy to share this with Wendy in a PDF form that she can send out to you guys. And then any other resources I'm happy to provide as well, links to any of the things that I've discussed. Any questions? Okay, so I'll turn it back to Wendy. Thank you all so much for your attention. Again, I'm sorry, I feel like a motor mouth. I've gone through this so quickly. This is about probably 3 to 4 or 5 hours crammed into 1 hour. So I felt like I just had to get it all out there. But again, appreciate you guys so much, everything you do every day for students and your communications that you're already doing with parents. Keep on doing what you're doing and do it wonderfully. So thanks again. Appreciate you all.
You are getting lots and lots of wonderful comments in the chat. I know Chrissy said she wishes this could be for her whole school. I love it. This was great. Wonderful information, as we knew it would be. I am going to drop your evaluation. Remember, complete this. This is how you get credit for saying you were here. So make sure that you complete this wonderful evaluation. And I've also, and sorry, Miss Trish, just to let you know, I've included on the evaluation your Twitter handle. So you will be getting you will be getting lots of dings on your Twitter.
Awesome.
Just to give you lots of Twitter love. This group will definitely do that as well. So thank you so much for wonderful, wonderful information. And I see our friend Marshall there. I see that smile.
Marshall.
Oh, look at that.
I
Hi.
Hey,
know.
man. Good to see you, Marshall.
I love it.
I looked at that haircut he's
That
got going
haircut.
on there.
He just got it yesterday. Can you show her?
Ah,
I think Wendy
well,